If you're looking to invest, you're probably sitting there with some extra income feeling completely overwhelmed by all the options in front of you. Personal finance is not an easy subject to tackle. Today we'll answer questions like, where should I even open an account? What type of account should I choose? What should I invest my money in? I remember feeling exactly like that and having all those questions the first time I tried to open a brokerage account. But don't worry, we'll address all those concerns and leave you with all the tools you need to invest your first $1,000 and start your investment journey. After learning about investing and managing my own portfolio for several years, there's something fundamental that took me a lot of time to realize. Becoming a good investor has two sides like a coin. The first obvious side is the technical knowledge, the know-how, the practical steps you need to know in order to start investing. The second side, often a bit ignored, is the mentality, the mindset required to get into investing, but most importantly, have lasting success. But before even all of that, since this is personal finance and not just general finance, there are several things we need to make sure we get right before starting to invest. The first one would be set up an emergency fund that would cover at least 3 months of basic life expenses. This is a very general and broad appeal personal finance advice, but that's because it's applicable to everyone. This is simply to avoid having to sell our investments early just because something unexpected happens in our lives. That would defeat the whole purpose of investing. The second point would be to pay off any kind of high interest debt. That could be a student loan or credit cards or anything where the interest payments are really high. The reason for this is simply that you don't want to use the gains from your investments to pay off the interests on your debt. That would be nonsense. You don't want to be working and giving away all your salary, right? Once those 2 points are cleared, we're ready to start investing. Whoa. Slow down a bit. Do we even know why we're doing this? Do you even know why it's so important to invest? Or you've just been told to do it? If you're already convinced and you know exactly why you want to invest, just skip ahead to the next chapter. Otherwise, let me spend a few minutes to explain why we need to invest and the basics of inflation. Money has a really long history. The first use of metal for money can be traced back more than 4,000 years ago in the ancient city of Babylon. Paper money was first used in China around 1,000 years ago. You can imagine, much has changed since then. Money is a concept in constant evolution. In the modern times, if there's one global concept we need to be aware of, it's inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is the rise of cost for goods and services. The easiest way to see the very real impact of inflation is to compare the price of anything you're buying now to its price 10, 20, 30, or 50 years ago. No doubt it was cheaper before. At this state, it just sounds like any amount of inflation is bad. Why would we want everything to go up in price? Well, think about it the other way around. Deflation. What if I told you next year, this house or this car will be 10% cheaper than it is now? Are you going to wait 1 year to buy it? Of course you will. Now, what happens if everyone starts thinking the same way? Everyone stops buying stuff because it will be cheaper next year. You gain by stashing your money and doing nothing with it. Then the whole economy collapses. Deflation makes people want to keep their money. Inflation, in a controlled way, makes people want to spend their money and stimulate the economy, driving the growth of countries. Inflation also helps you repay your debt. Let's say I'm paying $2,000 per month to repay the loan on my house right now. In 10 years, because of inflation, the same amount, $2,000, will be worth much less than it is now. But that's still going to be the amount I'm paying for my mortgage. You can probably see where investing your money comes into play now. All the economies around the world are aiming for a few percentages of inflation every year. What that means is literally every second your money is sitting in cash. It's losing value. The obvious solution is to invest your money, not only to avoid the loss of purchasing power from inflation, but also to benefit from the growth of economies around the world. You can see investing as a way of putting your money to work and signaling you want to be part of the future growth of the economies you choose to invest in. Now that we know why, Let's see how. The first action we'll have to take is to open an account. We will face two important choices when trying to open an account. First, which type of account? And second, where to open the account. It's important to choose first which type of account we want, since not all banks or brokers offer every type of account. Investment accounts vary in two ways: self-directed versus managed or automated accounts. A self-directed account is an account where you have all the control on how much money you want to invest, how frequently, and you can individually pick everything you want to invest in. This type of account takes more time to manage since you are ultimately responsible for every transaction that happens. A managed or automated account, on the other hand, has either a financial advisor or a computer taking care of all the transactions for you. The most common example of an automated account is the retirement account that most employers offer. This type of account will directly take a percentage of your pay and invest it for you in the vehicle of your choice. Once it's set up, it runs on autopilot. It's much easier to manage, but you don't have the flexibility of a self-directed account. It's much more rigid. The second way investment accounts vary is by the tax advantages they offer. If you have an income, you know you're paying taxes. When choosing an investment account, it's very important to understand the tools the government is putting at our disposal to avoid or lower the taxes we pay. That's right, the government gives you tools to reduce your taxes. Now, I will specifically talk about what exists in the US and Canada. There's probably something similar that exists in your country if you live somewhere else, under a different name. One thing to keep in mind, all tax advantage accounts have a contribution limit, meaning there's a limit on how much money you can put in those accounts every year, depending on how old you are and how much money you already put in those type of accounts. So keep that in mind, because going over the limit, you will most likely end up having to pay some penalty fees. To better understand each type of account, we'll use the same example for each of them. We will always use the very simple example where I earn $1,000 from my job and I want to invest it for 1 year at 8% interest. If you open a standard account, sometimes called individual account, you will end up paying a lot of taxes. If I earned $1,000 at my job, I will have to pay a 37% taxation rate, so I will receive $630 in my account. I will then deposit this amount into a standard investment account for 1 year where it grows for 8%, from $630 to $680. I then choose to withdraw the whole amount. The profit I made of $50 will be taxed as a capital gain. The amount of taxes you will pay on that gain is usually from 0 to 20% in the US, and in Canada, 50% of that gain will be treated as regular income and taxed. Basically, it will be taxed twice if you use a standard account to invest, which is why I would only recommend opening this type of account if you maxed out your contributions in all the other types of tax advantaged accounts. Let's see why. The first type of tax advantage account is what I like to call the invest now, pay taxes later, or tax deferred account. In the US, they're called 401ks. In Canada, they're called RRSP or RSPs. The goal of this account is that you put a certain amount of money in it to invest, and you will not pay taxes on this amount until you take it out, which might be 20 or 30 years later, because most of the people who use this type of account only take out money when they retire. In other words, if you're a bit familiar with taxation, all the money you put in this type of account is deducted from your income. If I have $1,000 from my job I want to invest, a 401k or RRSP will allow me to invest the whole amount directly without paying taxes. If it grows by 8% in 1 year, like our example, I'll be able to withdraw $1,080. Only at this moment, when I get the money out, will I have to pay taxes. The whole amount, $1,080, will be taxed as regular income. There are two advantages to this. The whole $1,000 was put to work in my investment account, which means more gains, and usually people will only get the money out of this account when they retire, which also means their income is likely lower and they pay lower tax amounts because of it. That's why most tax-deferred accounts are often called retirement accounts. The second type of tax advantage account I like to call the pay taxes now and keep all the gains later, or tax sheltered account. In the US, they're called Roth IRA, and in Canada, TFSA. You put money in this type of account after paying taxes on your income, but all the gains you make from investing this money is yours to keep. You don't pay any taxes. If I had $1,000 to invest, I would first have to pay taxes on my income. I would be left with $630 to invest at 8% for 1 year. After 1 year, I would have $680, very similar to the first case in a standard account. The only difference is when I get the money out, I don't have to pay any tax, no matter how much the gain is. For all tax advantage accounts, the main positive is we only need to pay taxes once. Which exact type of account is the best suited for your needs will depend on your specific situation, because there's more details about these type of accounts that we haven't talked about. But most people will easily have access to a tax-deferred account, or 401k or RRSP, through their employer with matching contributions. And I would 100% take advantage of that before anything else. Why? Because matching contributions are literally free money that your employer is giving you, and you lose it if you don't take it. Then, if you want to save for a specific future life event, like a wedding or a big trip, you could go with a tax-sheltered account. But do think about your own situation and your own goals, and don't hesitate to consult a financial advisor if necessary. Next, which bank or broker should you open an account with? Well, having chosen the type of account that you want to open, you need to find a bank or broker that offers this type of account. General rule of thumb, you want to go with a broker if you chose a self-directed account, and you're generally better served with a bank if you chose an automated account. Most, if not all, banks will have investment accounts that you can open with them. Don't hesitate to open an account with another bank than your current one. Banks are easy to find. Brokers, on the other hand, are a bit more difficult to find since they're a bit more specialized. Just to throw you some of the bigger names, you could look at Interactive Brokers, TD Ameritrade, Fidelity Investments, Schwab, or Questrade in Canada. It's important that you look at their fee structure because some of them might be better suited to your needs depending on if you want to trade more often or not. It might still be a bit difficult to pick one bank or one broker because there's one more thing that we haven't talked about that we need to factor in, and that would be your choice of investment vehicle. We still haven't decided on what to invest our money in, what we want to buy with our money. We need an investment vehicle. The problem is there are too many choices. Stocks, REITs, mutual funds, ETFs, indexes, forex, cryptocurrencies, options, futures, and all those different products might only be available in certain markets. If you're confused with all those words, choosing an investment vehicle will be the topic of my next video since there's so much to say about it. So watch it as soon as you have the chance.